2 buttons. This was an entry for a weekly held 48 hours jam which I messed up pretty badly. So this is a standard 2D platformer with a twist. You have 2 indicators above your character showing how many button presses you have left. You can press and hold a button as long as you like, but once you release it, you lose a count and one of the indicator turns red. If both indicators turn red, your character is left completely helpless, staring back at you for the lack of skills you just showcased, unable to do anything. The idea felt good, but the way I implemented it and managed my time was not. First, I playtested the game and was okay with the window size but forgot to test it on the browser where the game was released. This made it so either only a quarter or 3 times the size of the game visible at any moment. This also messed up the UI and the tutorial prompt at level 1. Second, main menu UI just being plain buttons with no art or even the name of the game. This made the game feel very unpolished. Third, a half-baked unintuitive tutorial and only 4 levels on launch. That is including the tutorial. Fourth, and to top it all off, I only managed to add the death mechanic for the player 5 minutes before the submission period ended. A death mechanic which was throwing an error in the console that I completely ignored and submitted the entry 1.5 minutes before submissions ended. These are some mistakes which I also made when I participated in the GMTK Game Jam 2024, the difference being, there I focused more of the art aspect whereas here, I didn't even look at the art department. I failed to find balance which I hope I'll find in the future jams I take part in. Even so, I was still proud of the implementation of the theme, and so were the other participants based on the feedback provided. The feedbacks also mentioned the lack of polish in the game which I plan to fix. But all that was like 2 weeks ago. Since the jam ended, I've been working on the game and fixing, changing and adding new stuff. The visuals remain the same but a lot has changed on the inside. First, I replaced the player movement logic from a single hunk of code to a state machine. If you don't know what a state machine is, it basically divides the logic in smaller pieces. For example, instead of just one script which has all the different controls and mechanics and logic for the movement, we divide all the mechanics in specific states like idle, walking, jumping or climbing and change the state of the player based on the input provided. This basically makes it easier for me to manage the existing logic of the code and will make it easier if I want to add more mechanics in the future. Second, I fixed the wonky climbing mechanic where before, you just held W near a wall and the player would start climbing, whereas now, climbing is more like in Celeste. As when you hold it, you just stick to the wall and then press up or down to move on the wall. Third, a dash ability which hasn't yet been fully thought out at all but still implemented for testing. Fourth, while working on this video I also added a new type of tile. This tile if hit by the player at a high enough speed will result in it breaking. I got the idea of it breaking based on the player's speed from the first dungeon of Ocarina of Time, inside the Deku tree. For now it breaks whenever the player touches it, but I'll complete it after this video. Fifth, the last and the biggest, I decided to change the whole level designing system. First of all, I scrapped the simple level-based structure for a more open, interconnected world, giving players more freedom and exploration possibilities. Previously, this game was going to be a small level-based game where every level would contain just 1 or 2 obstacles and then you'd be shown a menu to play again, go to next level, or leave. The problem with this structure is that it constantly breaks the player's immersion, if there even is any. Now the game will have a mix of Hollow Knight's and Celeste's level structure, meaning it will have huge levels and various paths like Hollow Knight, but it won't have a single map like it, but will be divided in separate levels like chapters in Celeste. Think of it as, anything that was previously considered a level will be just a checkpoint now. The level as a whole will be the sum of various checkpoints. Other than that, I also want to add lore and a story to the game and actually come up with an appealing art style to implement. Right now the art style consists of 2 colors and nothing else, and the player sprite is taken from a previous project I worked on, named the Rogue Racket, linked to the itch.io page in description. I even drew up some laser sprites that weren't even used in the submitted version of the game. I want to add more fantastical elements that can coexist with the futuristic stuff already implemented, like robot and lasers. While thinking about lore, I even got the idea to continue the lore from the previously mentioned Rogue Racket. Well, that's all I've come up with till now. I am still working on the project and plan to post more update videos. I'd love to hear any and all feedback from you guys, especially for the art style of the game. If you have any suggestions with a suitable art style from a game, a movie or anything else, I'd love to hear it out. Other than that, if you have any other form of feedback, positive or negative, I'd love to hear it out.